Welcome back to the Investor Professor Podcast. This is Dr. Ryan Peckham, and this is episode 101. On today's episode, we're going to talk about no and yes, or is it yes and no? When do we say yes? When do we say no? What if we're starting a business and we're getting a lot of no's and it's taking us a while to get to a yes? How do we know which one to say, which one to use more often than others, and how we can use the power of yes and or no to help us achieve our goals, both in investing and also in life. So please join me for another fun episode here as we get into this. Get your mind right, and let's get to work.
You drop this.
Well, welcome back to the show, everybody. Hope you had a good and productive week. So here we are. Today is October 1st, 2023. That means the third quarter is over. And we have one quarter left, and 2023 is yet another year that has come and gone. So at the end of the quarters, I always like to look and see where am I at as far as the goals I've set for myself for the year. I always feel like quarters are a much better way to do it than maybe every week, or, I kind of look at every month or so, but businesses go off quarters, and so I do too. So good time to kind of check in, see where we're at. You know that the fourth quarter of the year is going to be the busiest, right? I mean, we got Halloween, we have Thanksgiving, and then from Thanksgiving to Christmas, it's a blink of an eye. And then all of a sudden, we are setting goals for 2024, and it goes by pretty quick. So, don't let the days just float on by. Make sure you're making a conscious effort, thinking about what you're supposed to be doing, and keeping yourself accountable. And so today, we're going to talk about the power of yes, the power of no. But I want to talk about the market here. September was not a good month. We've discussed that already. And, you look here, it looks like the U.S. Congress has passed a bill to keep the government funded for the next 6 weeks until November. And so we just have just so much, there's just political risk. And we're going to talk about this. I will go into more detail on another episode, but political risk makes it very difficult to kind of plan and do your analysis of stocks and investing, because no matter what a company's doing and all the numbers and everything that goes into a company, it's really hard to account for political risk. And so especially during election years, which we're going to see obviously next year, and it starts earlier and earlier, that is going to become a focus and something that we have to think about when it comes to our analysis. So that will be discussed ad nauseum come 2024. So we look here, even though the third quarter was not that great for the stock market, especially the NASDAQ, we're still looking good for the year. S&P 500 is up 11.68%. And so we'll see. Normally the fourth quarter is a good quarter for the investment world. We get what's called the Santa Claus rally sometime in the middle of October. You see things move up. November is usually pretty good, and so is December. So we'll see. We're definitely having a better year this year than last year, and so that is very nice to see. So I've been thinking about doing an episode like this one for a little while now, and then I saw a post this week from my Reaching Dreams friends that talked about, for every when you're getting no, when you're getting rejected, and we're going to get to that here in a minute, that how many no's do you have to go through to get a yes? And so it really made me start thinking about this week, the power that is, in the word yes, what the power that's in the word yes, and the power that's in the word no. And so you can actually go look, there's books on both. There's a book called The Power of Yes, positive and practical advice to help you live a full life. And then there's also The Power of No, The Power of Saying No. There's tons of books on both topics. And it's like, well, which one of these do we use? Which ones am I supposed to use? Am I supposed to say yes? Am I supposed to say no? Am I supposed to say yes to myself? Am I supposed to say no to myself? And so where do we kind of draw the line here when we think about, am I supposed to say yes to this opportunity or no to this opportunity, or whatever it may be? And so upon thinking about this, I wanted to cover this topic. One of the things that was holding me back was I have so many things I want to say on this, and can I do it in a way that I can kind of carry that through to the people that are listening to this and the people that are watching this, and do it in a way that is eloquent enough that people can actually gather some nuggets of like to help them in their decision making. So we'll see. I guess when it came to this topic, I decided to say yes to it. But it is there. There are some very important points to make, and I think I'm going to start with the power of saying no. And so we talk a lot on the show of saying, setting goals, whether it's physical goals, whether it's mental goals, financial goals. We say, let's plan for our future. Let's set some goals and let's really strive to achieve those. Well, when you are striving to achieve goals, you know that you have to say no a lot. You have to say no to opportunities that might deviate you from what you're trying to accomplish. You have to say no to yourself when it comes to, should I skip this workout? Should I not save money this month? Should I not invest this month? Should I, whatever it may be. I know a lot of you have a day job and you're working on a dream job. And so because you have a day job that you're working towards something else, you got to say no to the job that you're at. Your boss says, "Hey, I think you'd be great at this," or whatever. And you're like, "Nah, I kind of like it where I am now." Like, you're having to say no because you're building this thing over here. And I know that is a tightrope that you're walking, because you want to say yes to enough things to where they think that you're bought in at the place you're at, and you want to be able to say no to enough things so that it frees up your time to work on kind of your dream that's over here. And so, especially when you're younger, that can be a very fine line to walk. I mean, that can be very fine line to walk. And I see all the people on Instagram, and you see all the people that have a side hustle somewhere. And so, your mind is in two places at once. You're saying yes over here and you're saying no over here. And so for a while, it's very difficult to protect that when you're living through it, right? And so, but what it really comes down to is that you have to prioritize what are the things that you want to accomplish and what are your non-negotiables. What are the things that you're willing to, basically throw your body on the sword for, that you have to protect. And so really, this does come back to the goals that you've set for yourself and the things that you're trying to accomplish and the things that you are not willing to compromise on. And so if you have those things, then saying yes or saying no to things becomes a lot easier, whether they're helping you accomplish those things or distracting you from those things. And so in my life, some of the things I've had to say no to are business lunches that probably aren't going to amount to anything, or happy hours that are definitely, some things that I like to do. I mean, I like socializing, I like doing those things, but I can't do it every single week, and I definitely can't do it twice a week. So maybe it's you come up with rules for yourself that says, okay, if my colleagues want to go out, I do it once a month or whatever. But you have to start putting limits on things. And sometimes it becomes difficult for us to say no, because we don't like disappointing people. We want people to like us. And so I always found it to be a little bit easier to kind of widen the scope of my dreams or goals, or why I was saying no, outside of myself. I don't know if I said that well enough. But basically, like, if I say yes to all these other things, then that means I'm not going to be able to help people with their finances or investing. I'm not going to have enough time to be able to help the people that I wanted to help. And so I would think about those people instead of thinking about myself, which made it easier for me to turn things down. And then, of course, like, the one thing I really want to just kind of hammer home here is that when you start having success, it makes it easier to say no to things. It's when you're really kind of grasping for your direction and your career path, and you're just kind of getting started, that you're like, man, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say no to this. Maybe I shouldn't. But you have to protect yourself, and you have to protect the dreams that you've kind of, the dreams that you're thinking about. And saying no to whatever it is allows you to be able to focus your energies in a place that you really truly want it to be. And it also prevents burnout. And we all know somebody who has said yes, and they're so giving, and they give to everybody. They always put themselves last, and that normally ends up in burnout. So you have to be very thoughtful on that, because everything has an opportunity cost. If you say yes to something over here, that means you're probably going to have to say no to something else. And so it has to be, something that you are definitely proactive with when you make these decisions. And so one of the things that somebody told me, and we're going to switch to yes here. Somebody told me, or I read, is that the power in saying yes. And so you look at the power of saying yes, and you look at new opportunities, and putting yourself out there, and challenging yourself, and all the things that you might initially say no to, but you just decide, hey, I'm going to start saying yes. There's books and TED Talks and things like that where somebody says, I said yes for an entire year. And when you read those, or you watch those, they're talking about saying yes to new opportunities that maybe they're scared of. They're not like saying yes to, I don't want to work out today, so I tell myself yes. Or I don't want to study today, so I tell myself, sure, you can take today off. They're not saying yes to those kind of things. They're saying yes to different opportunities. And somebody once told me, again, or I read, that if it's not an immediate, when somebody presents an opportunity to you and it's not an immediate yes, then you should question it, right? If somebody offers you to go to lunch with a certain person, or offers you this opportunity to learn something in this class, like if it's not an immediate yes, then you really need to kind of take a step back and think, okay, why didn't I initially really want to do this? And so sometimes that can be your guiding light. But there are great times to say yes. If you're saying yes, if you're saying no because you're scared, or because you're worried, or because maybe it's going to be embarrassing, or maybe, somebody's going to ask you to speak somewhere and you don't think you're going to do a good job, or if you take this class, you might fail, or if you take this test, you might fail. Those are not reasons to say no. Those are definitely reasons to say yes. And so, use your judgment, use your belief in yourself, and, give yourself the benefit of the doubt. And so, even though you might be telling a lot of people no, for the most part, if it's something that you really believe in, something you really want to achieve, you got to tell yourself yes a lot. Sometimes you're going to be the only person that tells yourself yes. If you want to start a business, if you want to go out on your own, if you want to go back to school, if you want to whatever, you might be the only person in your circle that is going to tell you yes. Sometimes you got to believe it before other people are going to believe it. So you got to say yes, show the commitment, show that to where others start to buy in. And so here's where I'm going to switch to those of you who are in business for yourself, or trying to get in business for yourself, trying to get people on your team, and you go through a tremendous amount of rejection when that happens. So how many no's do you have to listen to before you get a yes? And so every salesperson, anybody who's tried to convince somebody of their viewpoint has hit this spot before. And so I always like to just talk about some of my experiences, and I think it's been a while since I talked about this one. So if you just started listening to this, you probably haven't heard this. But when I got into the investing world, I used to have these sheets of paper where I would call people. I'd cold call people, right? And I would make 100 phone calls a day. And I had this little coffee cup, and I had 100 pennies that I would scatter on my desk. And every time I would call somebody, and they would tell me basically no. And it was never as nice as no. It was always like, it was a rough no. got to keep this thing PG, but it was always a rough no, believe me. So in between those calls, I had that coffee mug. I had 100 pennies. I would start to bounce them off the desk into the cup. And the reason I did that is because once I made it, I would then make another phone call. And this person would again tell me that I was an idiot, never to call him back, all those things. I mean, I got to where, and at the time I was probably 25 years old. I was going back to night school to do my MBA. I was working all day, going to school from 6 to 10 o'clock at night. I was just doing basically whatever I could to try to make it in this business. And I mean, the negativity was just unbelievable with the number of people that would tell me no. And so every day I would call those 100 people every day, not the same people, different people, every day. I'd get rejected. Maybe one out of 100, maybe one or two would allow me to come by and talk to them. But I don't think I ever got any business out of those. And this isn't one of those like cold calling works. I'm sure it does for some people. Cold calling works, just keep fighting through. This is not that kind of story. This is a story where I eventually realized if I have to do this, if I have to make 100 cold calls a day, and the list weren't very good. I mean, they weren't. But if I have to make 100 cold calls a day, like I am not going to make it in this business. So this is a story of this did not work for me, and it was a great lesson in I have to figure something else out because like this is not going to work for me. Like I don't have the personality to pull this off. And so it forced me to look for other ways of talking to people, of trying to gain their trust and to try to get some business. And so when you're young and you're trying to figure it out, I mean, sometimes figuring out what not to do can be just as powerful as figuring out what to do. And so anyways, I mean, you hear no so much that it's hard to not let that creep into your head. I mean, it is very hard when everybody's telling you no to not let that creep in your head. And so you have to have something that is basically deep inside of you that allows you to push through that. And for me, it was because I just love investing. I love helping people invest. I love helping people reach, financial independence. I love the confidence that it brings out in people. And I really just enjoy the business. If I would have been making those cold calls for something that I did not believe in, there is zero chance I would have made it. There's zero chance. I would have given up long before I struggled the way that I did. And so that really comes back to, are you doing something that you really enjoy? And I used to I would cold call people and I started having fun with it. I was just like, I'd call people and say, you don't want to talk about investing today, do you? Just because I knew that they were going to slam the phone. I mean, think about it. I mean, I get texts from all kinds of people now, voicemails. I mean, I try not to be, rude, but when you're calling somebody out of the blue, I mean, it's just it's a rough place to start. I mean, so you have to come up with other ways. So we start talking about if you're building, who's the center of influence that you have, the people that believe in you, and start turning them into your fans. There's a book called 1,000 Fans. I think that's the name of the book. 1,000 True Fans, a book by Kevin Kelly that talks about, your ability, if you're starting a business, to really go after the people that really support you, and having that network. You don't need everybody. And so this does a good job of showing you that you really don't have to have every single person on your side. You just need, some true fans that can help you, be honest with you, and get you to that point. But again, going back to, basically the thought process of today is this yes versus no. And the longer you're in business and the more often you hear a yes, the yeses, even though in the beginning, they are few and far between. Those yeses can cover up so many no's that it gives you such a boost in energy that you're willing to go through all the no's again to get a yes, especially if it's something that you are very passionate about. And so one yes from somebody can cover up 200 no's. And the more you get those yeses from people who believe in what you're doing and become fans of yours, the more willing you are to go through the no's to get those yeses. And so then you slowly start to build up your true fan base, the people that you can count on, the people that'll offer you emotional support when you have a bad day. And surprisingly, the more yeses you get, the more no's it starts to, you honestly, it basically starts to go the other way, where the people that have told you yes start referring you to people who are going to tell you yes. And the no's slowly start to get drowned out. But in the beginning, there's a lot of them and they're loud and it's hard and you have to figure out a way to push through. And so I would always think about, if you're somebody who's new to sales and you're getting a lot of questions and stuff like that, that's actually a good thing. Somebody's actually thinking about how they can work with you. When you just get a flat out no, thank you, don't call me back, all those things, it's it's a dead end. And so just figuring out a way to help psych yourself up. But I mean, those yeses, man, they are they are so good to hear from people when you're really trying to grow your business and you're working hard to do it. And so you just have to kind of go through it. We all go through it. Everybody who goes through it, anybody who's successful, especially in sales, or anybody who has built their own business, they have heard no a lot. And probably continue to. The thing is as you get a little bit of success, you hear no's, but you just they don't bother you anymore. It's a weird thing. Something that was so bothersome in the beginning becomes you just don't even hear it anymore. And so I'm telling you, on the other side, it looks a lot different. One of the biggest changes, and I know I'm kind of getting long on this, but one of the biggest changes for me was like when you start a business, you get to a point where you can't even think about turning business down. You can't think about, as a business owner, telling somebody no. But then later you decide, you start learning, okay, what's the best type of person for me to work with, all those kind of things. And eventually you have to start turning people down. I know, like in my business, like just as an investment advisor, if I bring on a client that doesn't have the right mindset or isn't the kind of person that I need to be working with, a lot of times that can take my time and attention away from all the people that have told me yes. And so that made it much easier for me to be able to start turning people down if I didn't think they were the right type of person or investor for my client base. So for all of you that are working on something else, working on your day jobs, working on on the other, your side hustle that hopefully becomes your day job, I'm telling you, one person to another, keep up the good fight. Don't let the no's keep you down, and keep pushing forward. And I'm telling you, the couple yeses that you get, they will make you feel so good that it'll make you want to continue what you're doing. So again, just to kind of round this out, having the ability to determine whether you should say yes to opportunities or no to opportunities comes back to how crystal clear your goals are and what you want to accomplish is. If you really want to lose weight, you will say no to a lot of things, and you will say yes to waking up early, eating right, going to work out, whatever it is. But you have to think about, what are some of the things this past week that you said yes to that maybe you wish you wouldn't have said yes to? What project did you say yes to that you wish you would have said no to? And then think about, what things have you said no to that you wish you would have said yes to? And did you say yes to something that you didn't want to say yes to, and it caused you to have to turn down something that you wish you would have done? And so you have to be reflective. We all have to be reflective, thinking about the decisions we've made and seeing, is that something I wish I would have done but didn't? And did I do something that I wish I wouldn't have? And so you're not going to make the perfect decision every single time. You're not going to, we're not going after perfection. We're going after progress. not perfection, progress, right? Are we moving in the right direction? So think about this past quarter, the decisions you made, and think about how you can change some of those, maybe just a little tweak here or there that really impacts and can impact your fourth quarter and as we move into 2024. So I'm fighting for you. I appreciate you. I really thank you all for all the support you've given me. And as always, don't mistake activity for achievement. Have a great week, everybody. I'll see you next time.